Good morning, everyone. My name is Aniela Hoitink, and I'm the founder of Microtex. And I started my career as a fashion designer, in which I always had roles next to this, from setting up fashion departments to streamlining communication or co-developing a database. In my work, I always wanted to improve the way of working and make it easier for all stakeholders involved. And in 2008, I founded NEFA to focus on fashion innovation. At that time, sustainability was still connected with green and boring design. The discussions were focused on buttons of cork, and the garments looked like they were washed by my mothers more than 100 times. And back then, I wondered who wanted to buy these sustainable products if they didn't look great. Sustainability, as it was not really appealing to me, as I wanted to create beautiful garments that people actually wanted to wear. But the industry itself was not really innovating. And so I trained myself in working with different types of technology and microbiology and implementing those solutions into textile. And my focus became on changing material and production techniques rather than changing human behavior. And so you will hear a bit more about the why and our solution later in this presentation. But I want to start with some of the problems that we're currently facing. Fashion brands struggle to keep up with the growing consumer demand for sustainability. In the past 3 years, we've seen that this demand has been growing and that there's also a need for having more and nicer solutions. Consumers are becoming more critical about what they wear because they want to have clothes that fit them perfectly, that are made out of natural materials and are manufactured using methods that are clean, transparent, and produce zero waste. It's a difficult task for brands, especially considering they need to deal with a complex 200-year-old supply chain. The faster production process, in combination with a lower material quality, has made our garments cheaper. The fashion industry has become one of the most polluting industries. Chemicals, pesticides, water and farmland are heavily used, and a lot of waste is created. There's waste in the production process of around 10 to 30% on average. 10% of what is produced is never sold, and after wearing, the garments are burned or thrown away. The fashion industry is aware of these problems and is improving the different steps within the whole production process. They are working on recycling and circular fashion. And with this, they're trying to change the behavior of 7.8 billion people, which I believe is a very difficult task. Our consemptive world started already centuries ago. Trade expanding in the 16th century and the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century, for example, have accelerated this. We like to gather things as they underline our personal style and access. And I think right now with all these Zoom meetings and Teams meetings, we see this very much. With the background that we are presenting, we are showing, the way that we're living. We're showing maybe success that we're having, the nice room that we're having. And so it is still something that is very relevant to us. Our brain is also not helping in becoming more sustainable. In nature, no energy is wasted on useless things. Our subconscious takes the decisions for us because it can do it better, faster, and more efficiently than our consciousness. Which means that changing a deep-rooted behavior is an enormous task, because every time that you're making a decision to become more sustainable or buy more sustainable, the subconscious takes it over and does what you're already doing. And so that makes it quite difficult to change. And we see this hesitance also in the entire fashion industry. Every improvement made should be fit into the existing conventional supply chain to become feasible. It is a complex and cloudy supply chain that relies on far too many stakeholders, of which some of them are unknown to us, and the supply chain is not flexible at all. We've seen the disastrous consequences of the pandemic on the fashion industry last year. Companies are working on reducing water, improving the dyeing process, or using sustainable materials. And these are very focused and quick fixes, but they only scratch the surface of the problem posed by a complex and integrated supply chain. It is for sure not enough. A $2 trillion industry, which is expected to grow by 60% by 2030, needs long-term solutions that tackle the problem at its roots. It feels like we're adding problems on top of problems in order to keep the existing supply chain alive. Take, for example, biological cotton. The problem is that it's mixed with regular cotton to be able to offer it for a lower price, although the brand is paying for 100% biological cotton. The solution is to add small chips to be able to trace the biological cotton over the full supply chain and to make sure that it stays 100% biological. It is a great solution at the beginning, but it gives the problem of electronic waste at the end of life. Then there's the 10 to 30% of production waste from pattern cutting. Waste that is either thrown away or burned, depending on the brand, or they found a new solution for it, it will be sold for very low prices. At the moment, there's a whole industry of selling these so-called waste materials so that the manufacturer can make some extra money. But this doesn't eliminate all waste. And all those wasted materials need nutrients and water. They have CO2 emissions and they cost money. There's a lot of focus on sustainable materials at the moment, which I think is a great thing. Materials made of cactus, algae, pineapple, grapes, and many more. They are under debate as the most of the time they contain synthetic PU, which is not good for the environment, but luckily a lot of companies are working on replacing these synthetic materials by a biological one. We also see examples of leather and materials grown in a lab, like mushroom leather, spider silk, and more of those amazing technologies. But that made me wonder, we have all the technology in the world, and what is then the first thing that we do? We try to mimic the original material by focusing on replacing leather or replacing silk, while instead we could also be making new material with its own properties and create a more diverse textile offer. And after that, we make sure that these materials fit into our current supply chain. A supply chain of which is known to create a lot of waste, uses a lot of water for dyeing and other processes, not to speak about the transport, CO2 emission, labor issues and more. Because this is actually what the brands want for the short term. But we are asking a bigger question. Is it also what the brand needs for the longer term? We actually think that these problems together represent an incredible opportunity, because we have an entire generation of people who now expect to own a garment for a year or two before disposing it and buying something new. And with the right type of materials and methods, they can be custom designed to meet that life cycle. We need solutions that respond to the reality we live in, and not for an ideal world in which we can tell every consumer to wear their garments longer and that they actually will do that. Or in a world that creating new materials is enough to fix a broken supply chain. And for this we took inspiration from the biological life cycle, because nature has its own consumptive behavior. Every year a tree sheds its leaves to get a new set. So could we actually make garments that can be grown and composted after wearing, just like the tree with its leaves? And we believe that we found an answer in the combination of technologies. While other companies focus on either material development or production techniques for the current production processes, Microtex is bringing the two together. We combine material and production technology to truly challenge the status quo and make improvements in terms of environmental and economical footprint that are not possible when only focusing on a single aspect of the fashion life cycle. And what we offer is an award-winning all-in-one solution for fashion brands. We use an automated seamless production technology to create custom-fit products out of sustainable vegan textiles made from mycelium. And mycelium are the mushroom roots. This groundbreaking manufacturing method solves major issues in the fashion industry. It reduces the cost, waste, and labor intensity of cutting and sewing, It also replaces plastics and leathers with compostable materials and improves the comfort and fit of fashion products. Microtex is the world's first compostable textile in combination with a 3D molding technique to make personalized fashion without waste. The 3D molding process has a lot of design benefits. It allows for creating different shapes, for example, very nice rounded shoulders or a perfectly fitting bust line. And ultimately, the garments can be made to perfectly fit your body size, shape, and style. And if you do not fit the standard of the Western body ratio, that's not a problem either. The garment can be made to fit any body type. I'd like to refer to Kim Kardashian as an interesting challenge from a pattern making point of view, because she has so many nice rounded curves, and to create a perfectly fitted jacket of a non-woven material for her would require great pattern making skills because of these beautiful curves. And by creating a mold based on her body scan, we actually will be able to give her the perfectly fitted jacket, and to do so without the need for seams. So a supply chain starts with that 3D body scan. And based on this scan and the chosen design, we know how much material to grow. We then grow the material based on mycelium, apply this material after grown and harvested directly onto the 3D mold, and after a drying process, the garment is ready to be taken off. So compared to the other industries, we skip the steps of spinning yarn, weaving cloth, cutting patterns, and sewing garments. And our shorter supply chain is limiting transport as well, because there are only 2 steps in the production chain. This actually does not mean that we are inventing a new supply chain, but we have taken existing elements from supply chains outside the fashion industry, and we adopted a holistic approach that shortens that chain. This makes it easier to scale up production and offers many other benefits that come from seamless production. It is now possible to combine separate steps like dyeing and embossing into a single step. It allows for flexible production thanks to automation. We do not have to produce thousands of products of the same pieces, as currently is the case. Instead, we could make a bag first, followed then by a jacket, and then by an upper for shoes, all in the same production line, because the robot will recognize the product that it has to make. This will also make it easier to, start producing a smaller quantity of, let's say, 100 pieces, and test if the product is what the consumer wants before ordering larger quantities. Furthermore, developing a full supply chain makes it for us easier to iterate our product and process. We do not have to rely on manufacturing stakeholders who need time to test the weaving, test cutting and sewing of these new type of materials. All our improvements can be directly tested, creating a much quicker iteration process. And that is also how we were able to change the looks into a more smooth material based on user and feedback. This simple and shorter supply chain offers a lot of other benefits as well. So by producing on demand, the pieces that otherwise would never have been produced, never have been sold, are not produced. Growing only what you need is reducing 10 to 30% of waste in the production phase, and after wearing you can simply bury your garment in the ground and it will naturally decompose, which by the way does not mean that you can only wear your product once. We are creating a vegan and sustainable material without the need for chemicals, pesticides, animals or fossil-derived materials. So no expensive farmland or its seasonal influences are needed, as the material is grown in factories. To give you an example, we can grow the material within 2 weeks. And so compared to cotton, which takes an average about 6 to 9 months, or growing cows, which is 2 to 3 years, it is very short term. And that means that we can almost grow our material on demand. We can produce it locally and all year round, so that there's also no need for long-term storage facilities. And this is for some more important than being sustainable, we can save brands money. When fully scaled up, we are cheaper than leather, and we have the potential to go under plastic prices as well. Furthermore, local production makes it easier to audit, or the audits might not be necessary as we have a simple and transparent supply chain set up in Europe. Our full supply chain only needs 7 stakeholders, and this is including pigments and coating companies. So finally, it will be able to trace back everything to tier 4, the raw material. And because of this, we do not need to know a year prior how much material the brand would need or the color that it should have. There's no fabric liability issues as we can dye our material just before producing the actual product. The brand can decide the final color just before the garment is going into production, meaning that internally they can postpone the step and base it on the latest data that they have. There are things that are different from what is out there. Unlike what might be in the news, we are not a leather replacement. Microtex is a material with its own unique properties. We named it Microtex for a reason. We are not making a mycelium leather replacement. We are also much more than a biomaterial. We are developing a manufacturing method for these type of material innovations. And we want to become the new standard for manufacturing next to cutting and sewing and 3D printing. We are proving the technology though with mycelium, but we are looking forward to implementing other materials in the future as well. We do not produce materials by sheets or roll to roll. Our material is directly created on the mole. And that is the reason of all the benefits mentioned. But more importantly, this is making the difference for consumers. Through a signature seamless production method, our products will be instantly recognizable as made by Microtex, allowing consumers to judge sustainability with their own eyes. There's no need to look at the brand's name or hang tag to understand if it is suitable and if it's a sustainable product. So finally, sustainability is visible from the outside. We are now planning our pilot production and are looking for high innovative brands. Brands that want to be on the forefront of fashion innovation. And we offer them the opportunity to be the first to work with our seamless manufacturing method and allow them to set the next trends by creating these high innovative designs. So please get in touch if you want to learn more about our solution. And I would like to end this presentation with a quote of Buckminster Fuller. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. As we all wear garments, we also are all part of the problem. So why not become part of our solution? So help us build a new model that can transform the complex and cloudy industry into a simple and sustainable one. Thank you.